You can share your slide now. Thank you.
Okay. So I think I was just talking about mentioning that you're applying to a graduate position, because the thing with some supervisors is that they like to invest in their students and make sure that they're not just going to do a master's and that's it, or not just going to do a PhD and not really continue into research. So if you're saying that that you want to just obtain a graduate position, it's a good way to go about it. So in this section, please let me know if there is a possible opening. And so she didn't really specify when she wants to go, but she said upcoming fall or winter term. So this is good because it shows that you're more flexible with your intended start date, even though you may have one in mind. Flexibility is also very good. And in this part, she mentions about how she's attached her transcript. So again, with this email, you should attach your CV and your transcript. Those are important documents to add to the email. And her saying that her grades are competitive is a really good touch, because it makes the supervisor know that she's competitive for scholarships. So if your grades aren't that strong, I wouldn't really add it. I would kind of leave it out, but you can still say that you're still looking for external scholarships, because for a lot of supervisors, if you come bearing scholarships or other international scholarships, it takes a lot of load off of themselves. So to know that you're at least looking for it or you're considering it, it's really good to add that. This section, she says that you're welcome to contact my undergraduate research supervisor. Um, And so it's good that you're mentioning your references pretty early. And so a lot of supervisors will do this, where they will maybe briefly contact your references ahead of time just to know how you are, so that they can maybe just screen you initially and see if they want to actually contact you back. And then lastly, she said, I am available to discuss this possibility further. And so this is, oh, and she said, sorry, I had to look forward to hearing back from you. So this is a good and a subtle way of saying that you would like to set up a meeting and write me back. So it's good to add this in your closing statement. And she used sincerely, Jennifer. So she used her first name and not her first and last. And so this is good, just to know that, the supervisor can contact you now on a first name basis. So after you send out that email and the supervisor emails you back, sometimes it may take a week, a month, whatever, but maybe I would say at like the 2 weeks or 3 week point, it's good to maybe send up a follow-up email and just say, hey, like, not hey, but like, dear so-and-so, I emailed you and I just want to know if you have gotten it, and if you are willing to meet. So something just very brief. And so if they reply to you back and they are willing to meet, it's really good to prepare some questions and to ask a lot of questions. So during this meeting, it's not the supervisor that's only interviewing you, but think of it that you're also interviewing the supervisor, because you, at that point, you probably have options, right? So you want to know, okay, which one is the best pick for me? So these are some questions that you can ask. Does the available laboratory space and the lab environment suit my research needs? What financial support could be received through grants or contracts administered by this professor? Will there be opportunities to participate in conferences and prepare publications and grant applications? Will you be working independently or in a close collaboration for your thesis project? How often can the student expect to meet with the supervisor? How much time will the supervisor need to give feedback on ideas and draft and chapters? So these last two questions will really give you a good idea of how hands-on the supervisor is and how available he is. Another question that you can ask is, will this professor be available during the time needed to prepare the thesis? So yeah, those last three questions I think are good, and they're a discreet way of trying to figure out how available the supervisor is, and if he or she is really hands-on with their students. So the last step in this whole process would be to search for funding opportunities. So as you know, international tuition fees can be a lot of money. And so if you come with funding or if you find funding, it's a really good way to take a lot of stress off of your research career. And also, you're more likely to get accepted and find a supervisor if you have external funding because that saves them money. And so with tuition fees and graduate international fees, um, for every school, it's different around Canada. Some schools are more, some schools are less. For the most part, for masters usually pay about 2 to 3 times more than Canadian citizens in tuition fees. But the good thing about Canada is that in a lot of schools, international PhD students will pay the same tuition as Canadian students. So it's a lot cheaper, and you just need to apply as an international student. And if you do, then they will automatically award you the scholarship where you pay the same tuition as Canadian students. Specifically for the University of Ottawa, we have a program that if you do come from a French country or you have spent a minimum of 2 years studying in French, you can apply to a French graduate program and pay the same tuition as Canadian citizens as well. So just to give you guys an idea of the average tuition fees per year in the different parts of Canada. So for Newfoundland, it's $4,089 per year. And I would say that's definitely the cheapest, for sure. For Prince Edward Island, it's 10,000, around 10,000. Nova Scotia, it's 21,000. New Brunswick, it's 12,000. Quebec, it's around 17,000 per. Um, Ontario, it's the most. So this is where I live in Ontario. It's 25,000. I think the reason for that is that I would say standard of living, Ontario is probably the best in terms of standard of living. And also it's just very populated. So it's very populated. And I know a lot of international schools want to go there because Toronto's in Ontario, Ottawa's in Ontario, and there's a lot of good universities in Ontario. So a lot of times, um, yeah, so a lot of times it's a lot of students will go to Ontario, which is why they jack up the fees. Manitoba, it's 11,000. Saskatchewan, it's 6,000. So it's the second last cheapest, or the second most cheapest, sorry. Alberta is 14,000. British Columbia is 20,000. So yeah, so to be honest, I would say that the highest amounts are the ones that have a better quality of living. For example, Newfoundland, I'll just be honest with you guys because I don't know if you guys have been to Canada or not, but in terms of, finding a lot of Black people, Ontario, Quebec, and I would say maybe Nova Scotia, that's probably where you can find the most Black people. Saskatchewan, barely. Newfoundland, barely. Manitoba, little. British Columbia, a little. But yeah, so if you want to look for quality of life, I would say apply to universities in Ontario. British Columbia is beautiful. Quebec is also nice. If you want to look for, the cheapest, then you can go to Newfoundland or Saskatchewan. And so for funding opportunities, to be honest, there's not a lot of funding opportunities for international students. And Canada does offer some scholarships. And I've posted a link here where you can find the different scholarships that Canada offers for international students. But it's highly competitive just because you're competing with international students all over the world, right? So it's not just people coming from Nigeria or Ghana or whatever African country, but it's like all over the world, people coming from China, from India, from Japan. So it's very competitive. And so I would say the best bet would be to search for scholarships in your home country and see if they have any scholarships or anybody that will help fund your studies. So quickly, I just want to talk about writing academic proposals. So writing academic proposals is important because a lot of times before you will apply to a specific program, or say if you get accepted and you're trying to find a research supervisor, you may need to come up with an academic proposal or a thesis proposal just to propose your research idea. to your committee and to your supervisor. And also to get scholarships, sometimes you will have to come up with proposals as well. So what is an academic proposal? So the supervisor department may want you to write a proposal describing your research intent. And so for academic committee to gain approval, so that's the point of it. And also sometimes, like I said, for scholarship and funding applications. So the intent of your academic proposal is to convince the reader that your research topic and your approach is pretty sound. So there are major components that I'll just briefly go through. The first thing is the title. So the title must be very descriptive enough so that the reader knows your general topic and wants to learn more. And so one thing that I've learned is that we always underestimate the title, but the title is very important because, again, that's the first thing that the reader is going to read, right? So it has to be something engaging. It has to be something that they would want to learn more about. Second thing is your introduction and your statement of problem. So in this section, you want to provide a good summary of the topic of what your research is going to, the topic that your research is going to be around. And you also want to point out the knowledge gap. So a lot of times with research proposals, you're proposing a certain research study because there is a gap in research there. So not a lot of people have looked into that. Not a lot of people have discovered it, or no one has even thought of maybe the research study that you want to do. So you want to really just outline at first the knowledge gap and how you're going to fill that knowledge gap. So you want to express why the problem you're trying to solve is critical as well. The next part is for your background and rationale. So this is going to be pretty much like a literature review of the specific research area. So you want to talk about the major accomplishments and discoveries that have been in the field that you're researching into, the progress thus far, and the summary explaining what you're trying to achieve and why you are the best person to accomplish it. So you really want to talk about, the skills that you have and, the inquisitive mind that you may have and why this is of interest to you and how you can be in addition to that research topic. Fourth thing is your specific aims. And so in this section, you want to talk about your specific approaches on how you're going to solve the problem. So you want to provide the different experiments to run and their methodology, and also how you will verify these results as well. Next thing is your expected outcomes. And so what you expect of your experiments and your alternative approaches. And you also want to talk about alternative approaches in case experiments fail. So obviously you're writing this without actually doing it and you don't really know if it's going to work, right? So there's always going to be a situation where maybe your experiments don't work. And so you want to just talk about the caveats maybe in your experiments. And also if there is, a part that doesn't work, what are some alternative approaches? So the reader wants to know that you've thought about everything, that you've thought about, what happens if it works, what happens if it doesn't work. You also want to talk about the specific values and the results you expect from the certain experiments. And the last part is your expected impact. So how will this research project progress the field that you're trying to contribute to? And lastly, just quickly, sorry guys, I know this is long, but I hope you guys are learning a lot. I want to talk about applying for a study permit. So in order to study in Canada, you're going to need a study permit, but a study permit doesn't equal a Canadian visa. So there are two separate things. So for a Canadian visa, that is specifically that will just allow you to enter Canada. So coming from Nigeria, once you get to the Canadian airport, the only way that they will let you, through the airport is if you have a visa. However, a study permit is needed if you want to study in Canada. And so the nice thing about Canada is that you will only have to apply to a study permit. And once that you get accepted, they will automatically issue you a visitor visa if they approve your application, and you don't need to submit a separate application for a visa. So the different documents required in order to apply for a study permit is you're going to need your letter of admission from school. So once you apply to school and you get accepted, that's the only way that you can get a study permit. So you're going to need your actual letter of admission from your school first, and then send it off so you can get approved for your study permit. You're also going to need a bank statement confirming that you have the funds for your 1 year tuition, and also an extra $10,000 as well for your living expense for your 1 year. So the money that you have in your account, it must be legitimate. It must, like, you can't just show money that has been that enter your account maybe like a day before you submit your bank statement, right? So you have to show that either you got it through maybe like a sponsorship, a funding, your parents maybe, or even just a scholarship. And if it's your parents that are funding your education, they also need to submit a financial statement and also submit a letter saying about how they are responsible for your financial situation. You also need to submit a police certificate just to show that you're not a criminal. And you also need to make sure that a lawyer notarizes your documents. So I think a lawyer has to stamp it just to show that these documents are true, and it'll make the process a lot easier. And so in terms of the actions required, the things that you need to do in order to get a study permit, a lot of times, and I think this is mandatory now, but you would have to write a study plan. And you would have to submit a study plan to the Canadian Embassy about why do you want to study in Canada, how it will benefit your advancement. And they want to know that you will leave Canada once your study permit is up. And so this doesn't mean that you have to leave Canada once your study permit is up, but this just means that they obviously want you to go back to your home country after your study permit. You don't have to, but if you say that you want to continue living in Canada, you may not get accepted as quickly. Another thing that is required is your medical test. And so for your medical test, it can't be your doctor, your family doctor that does the exam, but it must be a panel physician. So if you go to the Canada website, the canada.gc.ca website, you can actually look into this, and it gives you the different paneled physicians for the specific country that you come from. And you can only go to those specific physicians to do your medical tests. And so the medical tests, it'll be like a physical exam, they'll do x-rays, they'll do an HIV test, also syphilis, and I think a couple more as well. And so once you get approved for a study permit, there are different conditions. So the study permit is only issued by Canada, and it lasts for the length of your program plus an extra 90 days. And you'll receive your study permit at the airport. And so at the airport, you just need to also bring a letter of introduction saying that your application is approved, and you have to have a valid passport with your visitor visa. And I think you also have to have a sheet saying, or you have to show that your tuition fees have already been paid for before you get your study permit. And with the study permit too, it allows you to work a part-time job, but it can only be under 20 hours a week. So you are allowed to work here, but once you cross over the 20 hours a week, then you would have to apply for a work visa. So that's it for the process of how to apply to Canada. But I just want to tell you guys about something that I'm doing currently. So I started a not-for-profit organization. It is called Empowering Female Minds in STEM, or EFEMS for short. And we're doing workshops that will equip different women to prosper and to do really well in the different STEM courses. And so in masters, like when you're doing your masters and your PhD, a lot of times they don't teach you like necessary skills that you need to thrive. For example, they don't really teach you how to write scientific documents. We just kind of learn that on our own. They don't teach you how to give a proper presentation. You don't really learn how to write like an academic proposal or science communication. So different skills that are necessary to thrive in STEM, but you're not taught. And so with this not-for-profit, what we're doing is we're focusing on just African women, and we're helping equip them with the different skills that they need in order to thrive in their STEM courses. So our first initiative is going to be next July, and we're going to Ghana to hold a workshop. We're still confirming the details about that, but if you guys are interested, or if you guys know anyone from Ghana, or if you guys even want to come, you can please just let me know. And to keep updated with this project and with this initiative, you can follow me on all of my socials. So on LinkedIn, you can find me at Anna Ampaw. On Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at Anna_the chemist. And so you can message me if you have any questions about anything I talked about today, or even just to keep updated with the initiative and the project that I'm doing as well. And I'll be happy to connect with you guys all. So if you have any questions, I'll be free to answer them.
Wow. Wow, this is awesome. Thank you very much, Anna, for this great section.
No problem. Okay, I'm just reading the questions. So Kingsley asks, if you don't have any publications, do you have any chance of getting a supervisor for your master's? Yeah, definitely. So when I began my master's, I didn't have any publications. I barely had research experience. But again, I'm not from abroad, I'm from Canada, but I know at the master's level, they don't expect you to have any publications because I mean, a lot of times during your undergraduate, you don't do a lot of research, right? And if you do, it's maybe like for a few months at a stretch. So I think the main thing would just to be that you have research experience and not necessarily publication. But I feel like at the PhD level, it would be more competitive if you did have a publication, if you're applying to your PhD. Ola asked, how essential is having a GRE to winning a scholarship in Canada? I know for science programs, a GRE, so science and engineering, I don't think a GRE is that important, to be honest. I haven't really heard of anyone doing a GRE, but I may be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. I personally think it's just more for programs that are less science-based and less research-based, but I'm not 100% sure. I would say for scholarships, I would say the main thing is maybe your grades and any research experience that you have done. I think those are the most important things for winning scholarships in Canada. Second question says, as a fresh graduate of biochemistry from Nigeria with little research experience, do you require a thesis proposal to apply to your master's in Canada? So thesis proposal, for my school anyways, every school is different, but this happens after you get accepted. And so after you get accepted, then you may need to propose research that you're going to do in front of your committee. But the most that I think you would need is just that letter of intent. So the letter of intent is not a full-on thesis proposal, but it's just kind of like a letter describing your research interests, how, applying to the specific university will benefit you, how you will benefit the university, and pretty much like what you would want to do with your life after you complete your master's or after your PhD. So they kind of just want a good idea of who you are and to make sure that they're not wasting their resources and their money on you if you do get accepted. Another question here says, although not related to this class, how true is it that one is required to have $10,000 before given a student visa? I think it's pretty true. I have a friend who he didn't come from Nigeria, but he came from Ghana last year. And it was very important for him to have like the $10,000 in his bank account, plus having paid tuition as well and having his tuition money as well. So I think it actually is very important. And also even on the website, maybe I can find the website for you later and put it in my slideshow. But on the website, it also does say that it's imperative to have $10,000 before they accept you for your student permit. Yeah, definitely. We would love to collaborate with SWIS Africa. I'll let you know. Are there opportunities for pharmacy? So pharmacy, so like pharmacy school, yes, we have quite a few pharmacy schools in Canada. I know there was one at Dalhousie when I was there. There's one at University of Toronto, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% where all the pharmacy schools are. You can do a quick search of pharmacy schools in Canada. So yeah, there's pharmacy schools and there's also pharmacy departments. Say if you want to do a master's in pharmacy or if you want to do a PhD in like pharmacology, I know a lot of schools have those different departments as well. Do you need prior work experience and NYSC certificate from Nigeria? No, not necessarily. I don't think Canada looks at your NYSC experience or certificate. I don't think that's necessary to apply in Canada. Work experience, it depends. So for example, if you're applying to a engineering, so we have two different kind of engineering degrees. We have a master's in science engineering, or sorry, no, we have a master's in engineering and then we have a master's in applied engineering. So a master's in applied engineering, it's more work-based. So it's if you want to get into the work field, you want to get into the engineering work field. And the master's in engineering is more research-based. So it's if you want to study or if you want to research into engineering or become a professor in engineering. So for the Masters of Applied Engineering, I would think that yes, they would look at your work experience for sure, just because that's the avenue that you're going to go into. But for science, if your work experience is research related, then yes, it holds weight. But if it's not, I don't think it would hold any weight when you're applying. Are there any other questions?
Wow. Is there still any other question? I think we are done now, right, Anna?
Yeah, I'm done now.
Hello? Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. So I saw Ola asking that if firms and Fifth African can collaborate in the future. Yeah, we're already working towards that, right, Anna? So we hope to bring you down to Nigeria very soon. Work
Yes, for
with
sure.
young ladies here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the great info on Canada. I really appreciate this. Yeah, I wish to be in Canada too very soon. So maybe when I come in, I'll come and say hi to you in Ottawa. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
so that's very nice. Thank you very much for the presentation. The preparation was there. I've been receiving a lot of feedbacks even from people that they're really getting a lot from the class. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And
No
what I'm
problem.
even happy more about is that this section is recorded. Because due to the challenges of not starting the meeting earlier, I think some people were unable to join. So we have over 150 people that registered for this event, and we're going to share the recording with them. So please, maybe when you're done with the meeting, you can just mail me the recording link. So I'll download the video, put it on our YouTube, and share with everyone. And also the slides too. I would love to have the slides so we can also share with people that are unable to attend. So I really appreciate your time, and you've been here, I think for almost more than 2 hours now. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy person, and still, you sacrifice this to come and impact us with this great information. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I also appreciate everyone that sacrificed their time to be in this program. Thank you very much. The sacrifice you make, and I'm very sure that in the future you're going to reap from it. So yeah, thank you very much. And to the Swiss Africa team, thank you for working together with me to organize this great program. So I wish us all success. So thank you very much, Anna. And so this is going to be the end of the meeting. The Swiss Africa Scholarship Masterclass. So what we'll be looking forward to next is to start getting feedbacks from us. Start getting testimonies from people that they are now traveling, to US, to Canada, to UK for their master. So that's what we are expecting after this masterclass. Thank you very much, everyone, and take care.